Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues, both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, have we got a show for you tonight? We got some great guests lined up, and we're going to be talking about the future of the MAGA movement. Trump will no longer be on the ballot come 2026 and 2028. Already, we are seeing fractures on the right between people like Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, etc. What is next for MAGA? Where does the right wing go from here? Does MAGA have a future? Does it just die with Trump? What do we think? We got guests from across the political spectrum here, and we're going to give them introductions, and then we're going to get into it. We're going to start with Radical Coder, and we're going to make our way around. Radical Coder, tell people who you are, what you do, why we should listen to you.
Am I just doing introductions, or are we going into the topic?
Opening thoughts, too. Go ahead. Just talk, man.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Ryan Radical Coder. You should listen to me because I have a very cute dog, and also because I'm clever and funny and all that jazz. Yeah, youtube.com/radicalcoder if you want more of that, and after this, hopefully you will. But I'd say, what we're watching right now is kind of a custody battle between a few different branches of the Republican Party. Ever since, all this stuff with the Epstein files, we've had a major breakup, very heartbreaking, between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump, one of his most loyal soldiers. He's calling her Marjorie Traitor Greene. It's only a matter of time when you are attached yourself to Trump before he decides that you're no longer worth his time, usually when you betray him. So that tends to happen. But I think what we're seeing is, I said this the other day, I think the chickens are coming home to roost, and that the Republican Party has, for a very long time, kind of leaned into a normalization of various extremist ideologies. And right now, there's a battle amongst these particular these extremists and the more less extreme, the more moderate Republicans, and other people who have different, like traditional conservatives. All these people have very different visions for the Republican Party, and right now we're seeing like battles between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson over Nick Fuentes, and Ben Shapiro in a fantastic moment of -5 self-awareness is complaining about Tucker Carlson normalizing extremism and whitewashing hatred, which was very funny to hear come out of his mouth. But I mean, he is correct in that analysis. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to see. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen after Trump, but hopefully we'll learn a lot about it tonight.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Alish, what do you got?
Hello, I am Alish. Sorry for the formality. I'm being silly. You can find me on Twitter, X, Zitter, whatever you want to call it. Why should you listen to me? Because I have a lot of really cool things to say. Honestly, I don't have a dog like this guy, which, I'm sorry about that. I have my cats sometimes, but they're not here right now. He kind of stole what I was going to say about the party fracturing. They're running into a similar problem now with that the Democrats are having, in which they're trying to find somebody to rally around, and they're not really going to be able to find that person unless they want to rally around Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know. That seems kind of silly, but who am I? So they're kind of, and the supporters of MAGA are losing it in a way I never thought that they would lose it before. I think I'll get more into detail about that later if that comes up. But just some of the rhetoric I've heard coming out of the right has been like absolutely insane. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We got some new guests with us as well. This is going to be a very dog-friendly show, and I'm here for it. Next up, what was your name? Bradley? KJ Bradley? What do you like to be called here?
Hey, I like to be called anything except late for dinner, man. I'm
Okay,
KJ Bradley, owner of KTA Interactive Media out of South Carolina. Also the co-host of the fabulous show, Two Pokes Save the World. You can find us at any of our socials there. Why should you listen to me? Honestly, you shouldn't. There's way too much rhetoric and too much divisiveness to listen to people with reason and rationality. So I highly encourage you to go listen to all the extreme stuff. And, whenever you need a dose of reality, come check us out.
Well, thank you for being here. Hopefully, they listen to you tonight, though. Okay, we love moderation on this channel. And next up, Shuaya, Utah. Shuaya? I don't know
So
your name.
Shuai, Utah is an old joke from when I was a missionary in Taiwan. Shuai meant
nice.
handsome. And so since I'm LDS, everybody in Mormon, we went back and we all kind of stuck to that. And I actually got the license plate that said it. And I had people at a reunion go, "So you're the one who took that license plate." So Shuai, Utah has been a handle I've had for way too long. I'm Chaplain O'Neill, the Army chaplain, retiring here next month. KJ and I do Tupac Save the World. It's on hiatus right now, but we're doing a rebrand. So at some point we'll come back on and basically, I don't know. I think it's probably from what I'm gathering, I might be the only true conservative on here, which means I'm definitely not MAGA. So I'll probably be coming at it from further right than MAGA, but not radical right. I consider myself a conservative. I'm very realistic when it comes to what the far right is, and when we actually talk about fascism and those things. As a current high school history teacher, I see some stuff that in history that gets whitewashed and really downplayed and misconstrued. So I try to come at things from what I've seen in my life. I think I might be the oldest one on here too, unfortunately. But I don't know if you should listen to me either. I'm kind of like KJ. It's like, if you think we're interesting, great. And if not, doesn't hurt my feelings.
I guess we'll find out. Well, with that said, I'm curious to start here. I'll just open it up. You said you're coming at this from a more further right than Trump. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so what I mean is I'm an actual conservative. I am a fiscal conservative and a social conservative. When 2016 rolled around and Trump was the nominee, I left the GOP because of the nomination. I actually call myself a conservative libertarian. I think that everybody has the rights that are ingrained in the Constitution, but your rights go up to where somebody else's rights start, and that's where your rights stop. So you don't get to mess with other people's rights. I was against gay marriage, for example, only because I didn't think that it was fair to, as an Army chaplain, I was worried that soldiers would say, well, wait a minute, you'll marry a couple that are straight, but if they're gay, you won't. And so you're a bigot. I'm like, wait a minute, I still have to have my religious freedom, and that's where my rights are. And so mine should be able to stop. And I didn't like those lawsuits with the cake and this and that. But it's like, as gay marriage came through, I was like, hey, I've got gay friends that I'm going, that's cool. You want to be left alone? I want to leave you alone? Cool. You want to live who you want to live with as long as you're both consenting adults? I couldn't care less. And when Trump came in, I was really worried about how he was going to govern. I was actually fairly pleasantly surprised, but I'm, for the most part, a one-issue voter, which is the Supreme Court. And I might be by myself, but I liked his three picks. I was very happy to see three conservative justices. One thing, when we came back in, I saw kind of the vitriol that would come from the MAGA side and the lack of common sense. And that's something that's always bothered me, all the way back to like Rush Limbaugh when he would fight against the Bradley bill. And I thought, is it really that bad that somebody has to wait to purchase a firearm, especially if they're heat of the moment? What is wrong with having some regulations that protect? And so when you see Trump and the MAGA movement be so cocksure of themselves and have no ability to stop and say, you know what, maybe there's a point here on the other side, that really pushed me away from that entire movement. But I will say this as well, and I'm sure this will come up throughout the argument, probably mostly from me. I think a lot of the future of the GOP and the MAGA party also depends on what the Democrats do. Because that fracture that Radical said on the GOP, I see just as much fracture on the left. And it would be really great if the people on the far left and the people on the far right just got shut up and shut down, and nobody listened to them. And then maybe we might actually have people in the middle that would be more willing to have a good conversation and actually do the job in Washington. Because I think we all agree Washington is an absolute crap show, and nobody trusts the people that are in government on the right or the left. And that is really disheartening for anybody that is a citizen of this country and loves this country.
I think, Yeah, I
That's where
think
I'm
one
at.
of the, and we'll get into this. I want to get other people in on this as well. But one of the reasons, one of the things I've seen when it comes to nobody trusting people in the government, that is partially, well, partially it's their own fault. I want to make that very clear. But there's a large portion of it that is by design, right? When you have spent your entire political career or all your advocacy calling the other side commies or Nazis, right? Of course, people are going to distrust that because you've trained them to do so, right? And I think that that is like when we talk about the future of MAGA and what that's going to look like, there is a risk to me of it just getting more and more extreme. Like, oh, you didn't, you rejected us this time. Well, we're going to just go more extreme. I see this on the left too. A lot of people on the left claim that, oh, if only Biden had gone further left and been more progressive and been all of these things, then we would have come out and voted for him. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't know. I just worry that there's going to be, it's going to reciprocally radicalize each other. And they're going to be like, well, look how bad they're going to do. We got to be worse.
Well, I guess an interesting thing that I noted when we talk about the radical left and the radical right, as it were. I mean, I don't feel like Democrats are by any definition the radical left, but I mean, like I feel like the Republicans have put pretty extreme. I mean, like Trump himself, and we have people like Stephen Miller and all of these other extremists in the Republican Party. This is the establishment Republicans. The Democrats aren't putting, I mean, with the exception of the recent, like Mamdani being the farthest left, like someone who calls himself a socialist, or someone like Bernie Sanders. Like, and I mean, these people are relatively moderate considering, like considering what like a communist might be, or like tankies and stuff online you hear about. Like, I don't see the left putting, like institutionalizing these people in the same way the Republicans have.
Thoughts?
What's interesting is apparently Laura Loomer tweeted or maybe not tweeted, but she said recently that the GOP has a Nazi problem, which which is interesting to me that Laura Loomer would say that.
Do we agree or disagree with that statement, gang? Does the GOP have a Nazi problem?
Agree.
I disagree.
Why? Elaborate.
You can't have a problem if you're okay with it, right? Like to have a problem means to acknowledge that something is bad, right? So here's my take, and just to give you a little bit of political background, I consider myself a Republican, but not in the sense of this modern incantation or incarnation. I'm more of a post-Civil War Republican, just kind of a traditional conservative at heart. Not necessarily don't tread on me, but just leave me the fuck alone, and I'll do the same to you, Republican. So all the basic, values, small government, stay out of my thing. I think the issue we have is we've seen, pockets of this Republican Party going back to, I mean, hell, pick it. It kind of ebbs and flows, right? I think Gingrich kind of started our generation of radical Republicans in the 90s to counteract the Clinton. And then it kind of pushed a little bit forward with the Bush Republicans. And then we saw with McConnell and the Obamas. And they kind of shapeshift, right? So we've seen Moms for Liberty. We've seen the Tea Party. We've seen all of these, these factions before. So to say now that they have a Nazi issue would be a gross understatement. Like, until they're literally out just, shooting people in the head. And don't get me wrong, we're on the road. I just don't think we're there now, right? I just don't think we're there now.
I completely disagree. If you're going to say that the Republicans have a Nazi party or a Nazi problem, then you absolutely have to look at the left and say, they have a communist party, a communist problem. The very first thing I would say is you look at historically what the Nazis did and the fascists did in Italy. They did certain things. They confiscated guns, they shut down free speech, and they took control of all the manufacturing and et cetera, right? Basically, they went along. It was very similar to what the communists did as far as the means of production, but they did it in the name of the state. And one thing I keep hearing about Trump is he's a Nazi and whatever. Okay, if he was a Nazi, you wouldn't be saying it because you would be arrested and you'd be thrown in jail for calling that.
To be clear, he has started bringing lawsuits against Perkins Coie and making executive orders to try to shut them down because they represented clients that he didn't like. He's also arrested people for making op-eds that, again, were anti-Israel and things that he didn't like. And when we talk about gun grabbing, portions of his administration have tried to outlaw guns for trans people. So, I mean, it's not obviously to the same scale, but you can see little glimmers, right? Or at least little proto.
Well, I've noticed.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to jump in. Sorry about that. So if you're looking for World War II Hitler style Nazis, you're not going to find it in 2025, right? We humans evolve, humans learn. They realize that, hey, going full out SS uniforms and, outright claiming I'm genociding people is probably a bad idea. So they do it in more subtle tactics, right? So the evolution of Nazism is still there. Like, we're still snatching people up off of the streets, right? We still got a mass percentage of the population who turn a blind eye to the atrocities. I mean, we're already we're suppressing the press. What little free press that we got left is being suppressed. I mean, hell, every time the POTUS bats a damn eye, he's filing another lawsuit. It's there. The elements are there. We can't deny that they're not there. It's there. You just got to rock with it.
Yeah, and not to hammer the point into the ground, but I mean, like, look at these immigration policies right now. Like, we literally have ICE agents racially profiling people, essentially black bagging them, grabbing them up off the street, and throwing them into unmarked vans, and sending them to literal torture camp in another country. I mean, the echoes are clearly there, and again, we have people like Tucker Carlson who are pretty widely respected in the Republican Party, who are normalizing folks like Nick Fuentes, who are I mean, I think it's fair to consider him a neo-Nazi by any definition of the word.
We're paying for them to be in what is it?
CCOT?
CCOT too.
CCOT.
Yeah, we're paying for them to be in CCOT. Have you ever gone down the fascism checklist and compared it to Trump head on head?
Yeah.
There's a checklist?
Yeah.
There's a checklist, yeah.
Oh yeah. There's
You're
a
talking
fascism
about
checklist.
the 14 points?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think it's
the 14? Yeah.
an interesting nuance about because I've actually been reading a lot about these. There's a phrase that he uses that I think is really useful. Like, because a lot of people complain about Eco's 14 points of fascism as not being like some. He describes them as inherently like contradictory in a lot of ways, but he specifically says that these are like 14 points that fascism coagulates around. I really like the way he uses that word, coagulates. Like, it's enough. I think he says that it's enough that any one of these exist in a system for fascism to again coagulate around it. So like fascism will unite around these different 14 points. I think that's just I agree with you about it being useful to look at through that lens, but it's an interesting nuance.
Yeah. And Trump hits all 14 points, like not even theoretically, not even if you try to stretch the truth. He just solidly hits all 14 points.
I get you. I don't want to turn this into our MAGA Nazis type of deal.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
A little beyond the scope of the conversation, but I do want to talk about whether or not MAGA is going to be going more extreme. Because I'll ask you, Shui Utah. Is that how you say your name? I don't know.
You can call me Chaplin. You can call me
Chaplin.
O'Neill,
I'll call you Chaplin.
Utah,
How's that? It's much easier to remember. Trump 1 compared to Trump 2. Do you like Trump 2 more, less, the same? What are your thoughts here? Like, do you think that MAGA has been better or worse than they were initially at governing?
I think they've been worse simply because they're kind of all over the place. Look at what's going on with the Epstein files. I was talking with my students today about this a little bit. Not a whole lot because you can't go much into it. Yeah,
talking to your high school students about the Epstein files? Go on, please.
Well,
I'm very curious.
Let me back up a little bit. What I was talking about was shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. And so I don't remember how the conversation came up. They didn't even know what that phrase meant. And I had to explain to them in World War I, people would shoot themselves in the foot to try to get out of battle. And somebody had said something. I said, I felt like Trump was shooting himself in the foot with that. And so that's kind of what it is. Like, you look at Trump and you go, who's really giving him in this administration, you know what, this isn't the best idea. We all know that he loves to have yes people around. And Mattis, General Mattis at one point went, you know what, out. Different people throughout have done that. And I think he's doubled down on the yes people, the yes men, yes women. Um, and that to me is where kind of the challenge is, because he doesn't seem to have anybody who's grounding him anymore. And if you don't have somebody that is grounding somebody in power, that can go from a company commander in the army all the way up to, the president of the United States. Then they get put in that ultimate bubble of what an emperor used to have, which is the emperor would have all the sycophants around saying, "Oh, sir, you're the best. Oh, sir. Oh, did you just flatulate? Oh, that's wonderful, sir. Good for you." And I think that's kind of where we're at. And it has definitely become a cult of personality. So then the question becomes, is MAGA only the cult of personality based on Trump, or is it a legitimate movement? And that's really going to be the question. Who does he hand the baton off to? Because MAGA, to me, takes some, or even the GOP takes very different forks in the road depending on who the next guy up is. It's going to be very different if it's Vance, if it's DeSantis. KJ and I have talked about this. I would love to see Governor Abbott from Texas come into the ring. But all three of those are very, very different personalities and would be very different leaders and would take MAGA down or even kill MAGA. I think one or two of those are more likely to go much more to the traditional GOP, where I think Vance is probably the one who says, hey, let's keep going with MAGA and let's keep that alive. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And that's also going to predicate be based on who the Democrats come in with. Because to me, I'm not scared of Gavin Newsom at all. But if they come with somebody who's a little more, KJ and I have talked to Greg Easterbrook a few times, who's been on our show, and he loves the governor out of Rhode Island. I apologize, I don't know her name, but he went down the list and said she's a Democrat, she's a solid Democrat, but she's a old school. She wants worker rights and she wants these good things for the country. And that's what I would worry about if I was in the GOP, worrying about the Democrats putting somebody up that actually is common sense and makes sense. You put up AOC or Newsom, some of these guys, I wouldn't worry about that. But if you come up with somebody who's a little more moderate, a little more common sense, I think they lose the election. And that definitely, I think if they lose the 2028 election, that probably kills off MAGA either way. And ultimately is the wild card. I think it does.
Like,
I think
the
if they
people were
lose
saying
in
that in 2020,
2028,
right? Obviously that didn't happen.
Well,
I could be wrong, but
yeah,
I think
but I'm just curious,
I think
why
that would be the
2028?
make or
Why
break.
is that the death knell and 2020 was not? Like, what's the difference? What
The cult of personality, the person.
Okay.
There
So-
was this weird I don't understand the Trump love. I think Trump in a lot of ways was Ross Perot in a modern sense. Like, people were aching for somebody to be. No, what I mean is they were aching for that outsider. Hey, let's run the country like a business. I don't mean Ross Perot like Ross Perot's going to come in and save the world. I'm talking about coming in and they wanted kind of that that person who was going to come in and say, Obama's been in charge for 8 years. Obamacare got pushed through with 0 votes from Republicans, so they felt Republicans in general, conservatives in general, felt pretty castrated. And so they wanted somebody who was going to come in and just go balls to the wall, and they got it. And now we're kind of seeing what that means. And the reason it didn't matter as much in 2020 when he lost is because he didn't go away. He didn't go away like Romney did. And Romney went into the Senate. But most of the times when presidential candidates lose, they kind of go away. And Trump didn't go away. And unfortunately, I think for those who don't like Trump and don't like MAGA and would have liked him to go away, the media continued to do it. And I think it was a huge mistake by the Biden administration to keep going after Trump and with things like the indictments, because it gave him that martyr complex oh, now he's a felon, and people like me going, is he? I mean, really, it's 40 check kiting. Come on. But you
He is
gave people who
definitionally a
really
felon, right?
Yeah.
well, but the people who follow Trump look at it and go, really, if that's the case, you might as well indict his dog. You could probably get just as many indictments. And well, we have the dogs on the screens.
I mean,
But
tomorrow's topic is Nuremberg trials for MAGA. We're gonna. No, I'm not kidding.
Interesting.
We're gonna
If
have a
Nuremberg
talk
trials,
whether that's
so
wise.
but how do you have Nuremberg trials if they win in 2028?
Well, the
Or are
issue
you saying
is
Nuremberg trials by MAGA against Democrats?
yeah. Well, I mean,
guess
that
it
would
could
be
go
the
either
argument.
way.
What's happening
I
now
guess
with the
it could go
indictments
either
against
way.
Comey, the indictments against other political
Yeah.
enemies. That would be
So-
what the argument is. And this is
And
my
that's-
problem here.
yeah.
Is that both sides seem to be doing this thing where the other side's going to do it to us, so we need to do it to them first and worse, right?
There you go.
And I
The
think
Harry
that
Reid rule.
yeah,
This is the Harry Reid rule. When Harry Reid, who is LDS, by the way, he's a member of my church, and I despise the man politically. He was apparently a really good guy. I've had people that met him say he's really nice. But when Harry Reid, nuclear option back in 2010, I want to say, everybody on the right went, well, okay, are you sure? Because that's just going to mean when we're in charge, we're going to do it. And to me, that set the precedent that we've gotten, each one has gotten progressively worse, and it's been justified both ways with, well, they did it first. And instead of a leader coming up and saying, it doesn't matter who did it, we need to get back to a moral leadership in this country. We're going to just keep going. It's going to keep dividing and just get worse and worse. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, the whataboutism is definitely getting way, way too much. You made a comment about DeSantis, or somebody did. That would be an awful choice, in my opinion. DeSantis, like the dude who they were making fun of for having lifts in his shoes, which I thought was like the funniest thing ever. He got spanked in a debate with Gavin Newsom a couple years ago, like absolutely railroaded.
Depends on who you listen to say it's spanked. I heard everybody on the right say, and he took Newsom to lunch, and that's part of the problem too. Is well, no, but that's my point. Is the people on the right are going to say Trump can do no wrong. The people on the left are going to say Newsom creamed him, right? And that's where, to me, that's the divide. You don't have those people in the middle who are even saying, well, DeSantis did really well on these 3 points, and Newsom did well on 3 points. On these, we're at such a point that we have so few people that, in my opinion, that in the middle will say, yeah, I kind of like what Nancy Pelosi said about this, or I like what DeSantis did on that. To me, we're in such a gulf in the country that nobody will give credit where it's due, because goodness forbid you say the other people on the other side did anything good, then you're a traitor to the party. And that's where, like, you saw it just recently with the shutdown and the reopening. Instead of saying, hey, we had 8 people that got together and they kind of said, what can we do? What's going to work? Which in the past had been, hey, good job. Maybe we had some moderates come together. You saw the Democrats in the House going, oh my gosh, I can't believe those guys got together and gave in. Well, and Republicans would have done the same thing in the middle if it had been a shutdown during Biden administration and the Republicans had shut it down. That, to me, is the biggest tragedy of this whole thing. And I think it's going to get worse, because even at the local level here, let's say Georgia, 10th district, you don't have even a moderate that can come in and go, you guys, what are we doing here? Why can't we look at this country and say what's best for the people? But instead it's what's best for the right or what's best for the left. To me, this is where, unfortunately, we're just so far behind. If we could have a person, and don't ask me who that person is, because I don't know if that person exists, that can bring the country together. I'm really disheartened by it.
What if I posed it? I step on you every time, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Ryan.
you're good. You're good. Get in there.
No. I was gonna say, what if I propose to you guys that neither party gives a shit about the people, right? So it literally is just, all right, you got corporate interests with the blue team, and you got oligarchs and tech bros on the red team. and they're both sponsored by. It just depends on who you want the ruling party to be, and the people are collateral damage in the middle. So I don't believe, like, Pandora's already out of the box, right? We there's no putting it back. We are too far gone for a republic by the people for the people, right? The only way we do that is if we literally flush the entire thing and start over, which is, I mean, I would have thought 10 years ago would never happen. But then again, I'm kind of like, all right, do I want to save for retirement or do I want to start prepping? You know what I mean? So it isn't a matter of compromise. It's a matter of controlling interest and which way your flag flies and who you believe should get the best subsidies and should have ruling parties, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I think that on my bad days, I agree with you. Okay, on the days I'm blackpilling, I agree with you. Okay, no pun intended. But I want to make sure that, I don't know. For me, yes, the Democrats aren't perfect by any means. I have a big problem with some of the latent anti-Semitism that exists on the far left. I have a big problem with people like Hassan Piker and those people getting media attention, things like that. They are not on my team. I do not want them at my table, right? But at the same time, I have to look at who the Democrats are putting up to govern. And like my governor, I'm in Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro has done an amazing job here.
Great guy.
Yeah, he's got absolutely great approval ratings because he just gets things done, and he doesn't tend to go like into the weird culture war bullshit. I mean, he dabbles. We all do. I do. I can't like throw stones in my glass house. But I just, like, when you say neither party cares about us, I don't believe that's true.
Well,
I think that
I'll give you a prime example.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
can give you several examples. So, this and by no means the blue parties had the tactical advantage several times, right? We had an opportunity to put a SCOTUS in twice. You had it under 44, and then you had it right at the beginning or the end of 45. You could have stopped 45 the same way they stopped 44 to wait for 46 to put in SCOTUS. Both times it's all about decorum, only to get their shit pushed in by the Reds and got 3 SCOTUSes put in back to back to back, right? And then we say, okay, cool. Hey man, you messed up in 44, got it. 46 is in the seat. Here's what we need to do. You need to codify the Voting Rights Act, because if you don't, it's going to be a fucking problem. Do you know what the blue team did? Oh no, we can't do that. Why? That wouldn't be fair.
No, they didn't say it because it wouldn't be fair. They just did not have the votes. Like, even it was a 50-50 Senate.
Yeah, it was a 50-50 Senate.
We have a filibuster. You gotta get 60, or you're not getting these things codified.
But you know who else didn't have the votes? The red team, when they kept pushing the blue team shit in the last 6 years. Funny how the red team can always find the votes and to find ways to make shit happen. But the blue team shits on this.
Hold on. What has the red team actually passed legislatively in the last year?
I'll give you 3. I'll give you 3 letters of the same exact letter. BBB.
The big beautiful bill, a spending bill. Great.
Yeah, a spending bill.
There's one bill
well, you just
for 9 months. No, that's true.
You just asked for one.
But I did, and you did give me one. But almost every single thing that Trump is doing has been through executive order.
Executive order, yes. Executive order.
Now,
yes.
Biden also did many executive orders, but Trump has far and away surpassed him. The problem with executive orders are that the other guy, when he gets in, is just going to erase them all.
Right, but you know what the other guy can't erase? The other guy can't erase Amy Coney Barrett. The other guy can't erase Brett Kavanaugh.
They can pack the courts.
They could, but they've had the opportunity. What I'm saying is they've had that opportunity.
I'm glad they didn't, by the way. I think packing the courts would be a terrible precedent for many reasons.
It just,
but
yeah, but the interest of the people, I'm saying neither the red team or the blue team had the interest of the people. The blue team had several chances to strengthen the ACA, right? Several chances, right? All right, we say the first push out with 44 when he pushed it out, it wasn't a perfect bill, right? But the premise was there, the framework was there, right? When 46 came in and he did the infrastructure bill, he had the ability to push it through when he got the infrastructure bill put together. He did not. They chose not to.
It's,
Wait a minute, the infrastructure bill passed. It was
Yeah.
the
they got it done.
Inflation Reduction Act, which added
Yes.
$2.3 trillion to
But that's my
printed
point.
money or whatever it was.
But that's my point. If you only have one shot, you only got one shot, and you take the shot, and you got the votes for the infrastructure bill. If you can get the infrastructure bill passed, you can get other bills passed, right?
Not necessarily.
Well,
So
not
KJ
necessarily.
KJ and I
Biden
had
passed
this
like
discussion.
a record number of bipartisan bills, right? I mean, like,
Right. He did, which is, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They passed them, but none of it matters. I mean, it matters, but not to the sense of like you could have got it fixed, but you chose
But
not.
this is where I go all the way back, because KJ and I have talked about this. Obama had a super majority and wasted so much political clout on the ACA when they could have done so many things that the Democrats wanted, checked them off. But instead, they were so focused on the ACA, which has not reduced any health care. It has lined the pockets. It has lined the pockets of the insurance companies. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Well, the
That
insurance companies. Just real quick,
both things.
I disagree with you on the on your characterization of ACA. I have family members who could not. Like, I'm old as well. I'm 42 years old. Okay, I remember the time before the ACA. I had family members could not get insurance. Could not get insurance at all. There was no possible way.
Pre-existing injuries. Yeah.
Yes. The ACA fixed that problem, and now they can get insurance. And also, it hasn't like spiked insurance costs. They've gone up about the same rate as it does. You can argue that it didn't reduce it enough. Fair enough. But I think that look at the ACA subsidies, which was what the shutdown was about. I think that the Democrats trying at least to keep the ACA subsidies on the books for at least another year shows that they are actually willing to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Like, they don't have the resources. I don't know.
Without trying to re-adjudicate, because to me, I think the ACA, if they had said just really focused on the pre-existing conditions, you probably would have had some Republicans go along with that. But I do think that you have, again, it goes back to just spending the political capital on the ACA. We don't have to debate whether the ACA was good or bad.
Sure.
Just that was so much political capital that they didn't work, like what KJ is saying on the Voter Right Act, things like that. And I think that was a huge thing that Trump did in his first tour. That again, it's just set a horrible precedent. Is doing everything by executive order to bring it back a little bit. And now that's kind of what we have, unfortunately. The legislature has just punted on their jobs. We've talked about we haven't got around to it, but we've been joking around with the idea of what if we had a show on what constitutional amendments could we add. And one of them would be anytime a budget is not passed, every single member of Congress is now ineligible for re-election. I think the American people would be like, yeah, let's do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but the problem is, get it passed? Yeah, the problem is the right is busy trying to repeal the 19th. That's their at least not. I won't look. It wouldn't be fair to say all the right. I won't paint with that broad a brush. Forgive me, but there is a sizable and growing portion of the right, some of whom I've argued with, right, on my show, and you guys have seen this, right, who just believe that women should just shut the fuck up. They don't deserve the right to vote, and they want to take it away.
Well, they're stupid then.
They're stupid, but they're growing in power, right?
And this brings it back to the topic at hand, right? Like, I mean, you know, I'm happy to have conversations like criticizing Democrats for various things. Like, I think it's fine. I'm critical of them too at times. But like, somebody's beeping.
Who's beeping?
That's me. Yeah, that's my other system going on.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Timed out.
Of course it is, KJ.
But like, almost every. It's very frustrating. I hear this kind of like both sides. You know, no one in the government cares about you. All this sort of stuff. And I mean, like, maybe that's true, but like, oftentimes we have these conversations, I feel like we're using that as like a crutch to kind of pretend that like, again, the current Republican Party is not just absolutely like off the wagon. Like they've completely they've just gone insane. And And like we're downplaying it drastically, and we sit here talking about Biden not doing, like, again, Biden passed a ton of bipartisan legislation. He was working with the Republicans. Right now, Trump is demanding that the Republicans don't work with Biden, and I guess this is kind of the inspiration. This is right now we're finally seeing that Congress is saying, maybe this is a sinking ship and we need to kind of jump off, and hopefully we find some floaties. And I guess we're like the main topic here I'm hoping to hear more about is like, what are those different boats that the Republicans are jumping into look like, and what shape are they taking? Do any of them have sails? Are they going anywhere? Like, what's going to happen now,
I'll close on this. The Voting Rights Act was on Biden's table with the Infrastructure Act. Here's the cause and effect of it. Because they failed to act, Trump 2.0 happened. Because 44 failed to act, Trump 1.0 happened. And the SCOTUS turned decisively conservative. Had the blue team acted when they were supposed to act, it wouldn't be a supermajority conservative judgment in the SCOTUS right now, and the president wouldn't have immutable power right now. So it's a cause and effect thing. I'm okay with giving it to both sides, but we can't sit back and say, oh, Trump is Trump the fucking devil all of a sudden, when the steps were there. You knew he was bad the first time when he tanked the fucking economy. It's like farmers voting for Trump the second time. Like, hey man, he bankrupted your ass the first time, and then you come back overwhelmingly expecting him not to bankrupt you again, and now you're sitting there making TikTok videos crying.
So regardless of how we got here, we're here now. We're in a situation where Trump is no longer going to be on the ballot. We have a coalition that has power, MAGA, who has various problems, and there seems to be a fracturing within. So what does the future of MAGA look like? What do we see happening? Regardless of what we want to happen, what do we see actually happening? And $2 from Gelatinous Rube, thank you for the $2 to say nobody with power, I would vote for them. Thank you for the $2. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean.
MAGA will continue to strengthen, just under a different umbrella. Like I said, we saw it before. We saw it before with the Tea Party. The Tea Party, the Moms for Liberty, the movement, the whole, like, they continue to reinvent themselves under a different umbrella. The idea of MAGA does not die with Trump, right? It's a Christian nationalist principle, and as long as that Christian nationalist underbelly is prevalent in the country, MAGA is not gonna die. You know what I mean? It's just
so just to be clear, before you go, Alish, and I'm going to give the mic to you. According to you, KJ, the MAGA coalition has a Christian nationalist future.
Sure. I mean, but it's not a Christian nationalist. It's a Christian nationalist foundation. That's what they've always been based off of.
Fair.
It just keeps reinventing itself. And as long as they hide under the premise of religious persecution, you're always gonna find a rallying cry and a base.
Okay,
right?
$5 from Gelatinous Rube to say appreciate two pogs facing reality rather than sweeping for Dem failures. But I do hope the Dems follow Wick into repeating these failures instead. Thank you for the $5. Alish, go ahead. I want to give the mic to you.
Yeah, so we saw that TPUSA was definitely trying to take the reins out of the hands of MAGA by rallying around Charlie Kirk. Well, the death of Charlie Kirk. They still won't shut up. Wait, are we allowed to say that we?
Just go on with your point. We don't have to get distracted.
So they're trying to give the reins back to, or trying to give it to TPUSA and trying to make that a thing. That's not really going to happen, as we can see. I do agree somewhat with the Christian nationalism, but the thing is you have kind of the Catholics backing off of it, so I don't know so much about that. But, I mean, I don't know too much about TPUSA, but I think that they're going to try to build similarly to where the Heritage Foundation tried to build. So they're trying to build themselves up to be a movement, especially because they're going to colleges, like, to recruit, I guess. I'm definitely seeing that happening a lot. What do you think? Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, it's a typical political grassroots campaign. I would expect them no less. Like the party and the ideals. If you don't ingratiate them young, then you're not going to get them right. That's why the attack on liberal colleges is so prominent, right? I have to get in there and I have to let you know that we're under attack. We're being persecuted, right? We're being attacked. And it's up to you. You are the future. Don't be the generation to let this ideal die, right? So the whole thing, like I think I'm not doing a good enough job, and I'm not professional enough to be able to convey this issue properly. But at the end of the day, you have too many people with a whole shit ton of money with these ideals invested in this process to be able to say, oh well, when Trump dies, the movement dies with you. It doesn't, right? Or else you wouldn't have guys like Elon Musk coming in and dropping tons of money in. You won't have guys like Peter Thiel and the Heritage Foundation or JD Vance and his coalition on the backside creating their movement and building their foundation. It's too powerful to die, and it's too much a part of American culture to die away. It just won't.
$5.
One of those.
I don't know about that.
Just real quick, and I want to give it to you, sir. The Raging Tomato for $5. Great panel. I know. Thank you. And then 20 WIC TV gift memberships from Tango Thoughts. Appreciate you, Tango Thoughts. And if you've been a lucky recipient of one of those gift memberships, make sure to thank Tango Thoughts in the chat. And again, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and continue to give me money. If you give me money to ask these gentlemen and this lady questions, I will read that on screen and have them deal with it. But go ahead. I snatched the mic from you. Please. You had something to say.
See, that's the problem with being 53 years old. I start to say something, get cut off, and it just goes, I don't remember what the hell I was about to say.
Well,
okay.
you know what?
I
It's
can
okay.
kinda-
I'm sure you'll think something as we go. Yeah, I do want to talk about this Christian nationalism thing. There is a documentary that has been coming, or has been announced, that is coming out, I think, in January, about what that is and where it takes us. And more in the, at least, internet online discourse, I hear about Christian nationalism, and there are more self-professed Christian nationalists coming in. Does that, and there is a solid, regardless of whether you think it was their foundation or not, there's a solid chance that in the future that will be the right, will be Christian nationalist. What does that mean for the country if that is kind of the direction that the right takes?
I was actually going to comment upon that. I really think that a lot of the country is sinking into not just nationalism, but religious psychosis. Like, we're seeing way too much religious psychosis coming from everywhere. Specifically, and I'll give a small example, there was the rapture thing that happened. People took that way too seriously. I keep hearing people, personally, I spend a lot of time on TikTok doing debates. I have heard way too many people profess Islamophobia like you absolutely would not believe. Like, to the point where they're actually saying that Islam is going to take over the United States and modify the Constitution and implement Sharia law because of Mandami. Like, I've actually heard this from multiple different people.
They
not just
are
like one or
implementing, Mamdani has proposed that all New York City public schools be teaching Arabic numerals in the classroom. Crazy
Arabic
stuff.
numerals?
There's the joke. Hey, Alice, before you
Oh my
keep
gosh.
going, can you tell me what you mean by religious psychosis?
So people, now I'm not going to say everyone who's religious is in religious psychosis, but there are too many people who are taking their faith and kind of applying it too much across their entire life, right? So when you say that you live the life of Christ, but then you do things like call illegal immigrants like disgusting names, and then you don't actually, love thy neighbor as yourself, and then you also think that Islam is like the absolute devil, respectfully, like, because I know it's not, the same religion, but you actually think that they're going to come and like murder you in your sleep. It's just like insane to me. Right. So there's a rise of it being lathered on way too thick over society. I can give an example, like in Oklahoma, how they're implementing I think it's Oklahoma, where they implementing the 10 Commandments in the classroom. Is that Oklahoma?
Well,
Yeah.
they Oklahoma also bought the Trump Bibles too.
I think that might have been
Ugh.
struck down. It was struck down somewhere. The Ten Commandments thing.
Oh, really? I thought it. When you know, what,
Everything's
I've been
going
hearing
through
a
the
bunch of
courts
different
nowadays.
This is
It's really
just like
hard
in the
to
past
say.
like 48
Did
hours.
that
I
answer
believe.
your question though, Chaplain?
Well, I mean, not really. I understand what you're saying as far as your religion is going to color how you see things. I'm very religious, obviously, and I'm pretty well versed on Islam. I'm pretty well versed I was a former Army intel agent before, or intel analyst before I became a chaplain, so I had to get pretty well versed on Islam. And I guess the argument would be, when people say Islam is the boogeyman, well, Islam has said that they are the boogeyman. They've said our goal is to bring down the West. Our goal is to do these things. Our goal is to infiltrate. And one of the things that in the West, and you don't have to agree with us but Americans are very, very short-term thinkers. We think in terms of days, weeks, and months. Muslims and Middle Easterners, and so not just Muslims, but people in the Middle East don't think in terms of days and months. They think in terms of decades and centuries. One of my favorite Doonesbury cartoons, I literally have it at work right up next to my wall. It's one of my favorite ones. And this is from like 2005, the height of the Gulf War. There's these army guys driving in to go and have a mission, and they have their interpreter. And they say, we're going in for this target. And the interpreter says, oh, no, we can't do that. I have a blood oath against this guy. And the soldier says, well, what are you talking about? He says, well, he killed a member of my family. And the soldier says, well, when did this happen? He goes, in 1412. And the army goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? They hold on to things and they look at things in these terms of decades and centuries. So we can look at that and say, no, Islam's not really a threat, but it is a slow build, and that's how, if it were to happen, it's not going to happen in our lifetimes. That's why I personally don't really care that much, because I'm not going to be around for the time.
Yeah.
If
Après
America
moi,
turns
le
Muslim in
deluge,
200
right?
years,
After me, the
I couldn't
flood.
care less.
But
If I
this is
may.
where it's coming from. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if I may, Black America would like to have a word. So when we talk about in terms of long-term thinking, right? My grandfather passed down some advice to me as a young boy that he got from his grandfather, and so on and so forth. And he told me the two greatest threats that I would ever face as a black man in this society is American Jesus and the white ally. And true to my 43 years on this planet Earth, he has never been more right. Because the most threats I've ever received have come from my Christ-loving Christian brothers who I can't worship with, and those goddamn allies who refuse who always vote against their own interests. So when we talk about long-term thinking, there is let's say there is a significant case study in American history of long-term suppression and long-term deterrent, right? So let's not say it's a Muslim thing, and not and be ignorant to the fact that our own Christian brothers will just as soon hang you up and turn you into strange fruit if you disagree with them. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah.
And we can rock.
Yeah, I
with
think that it's an interesting transition. Like what I'm thinking, we can have a debate about what. Like I mean, I don't like Islam. I don't like Christianity really. I mean, I'm kind of an anti-theist, and I don't, the idea of anyone who thinks that like the creator of the universe they're enforcing the will of the creator of the universe. That's always like a scary thing to me, just in general. Although I mean, there are values in all these different religious organizations that I might be sympathetic to, but that's the big thing that stands out to me. But I mean, like right now, I'm not worried about I don't see Mamdani as like a radical Islamist or whatever. I'm not worried about like radical Islam taking over my country. Maybe I should be more. I just don't see it. But like what I am definitely afraid of is these Christian nationalists who are like long ingrained in American American culture and American power, and realistically, they represent a very tiny portion of the American populace. Like, I believe it's only like 10% are like want actually instilled like Christian nationalist values in the government. But I see these things like increasingly normalized. And I mean, I think that is like one of the main factions that's pushing for power in a post-Trump MAGA, or in a post-Trump Republican Party rather. And I mean, I guess that's what I'm concerned about, is these people. And I think it also feeds into, we were talking about people like Turning Point going to the colleges. I think all of these different groups have kind of worked in tandem for a while under the Trump umbrella, and now we're starting to see the schisms more. But like another piece of that umbrella has long been this kind of like red pill stuff online, which I think is a big reason why we see such a political schism between like young men and young women, where like they're eating up a lot of this content that convinces them that feminism is like the reason they can't get a girlfriend, or they're having all these problems in life, and their like wages are bad because women are in the workforce. And like Wick talked about, people who are pushing to repeal the 19th and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I just debated a guy the other day who was he was a former congressional candidate in some I don't remember exactly where, but like the original debate he wanted to have was women shouldn't vote, and like so I think that I guess to try to tie it all together is that these are like these different factions, but there is a lot of overlap in these factions. And I guess like when I zoom out and I see that like the center of the different ovals, like I see something that's not a very pretty picture for the America that I want to live in.
Well, go ahead, Alish, please.
Okay, in my opinion, as long as we don't start taxing the church, I think we're good to go in terms of the church having influence over the government overall, right? Because I think that's the reason why we don't tax the church, because they don't have any influence over the government because of the First Amendment. I don't think you should be scared of Islam taking over anything. And that's the conversation that I keep hearing, is that what Chaplin brought up about how what they think in centuries, or is that what you said, decades and centuries?
Yeah.
Because that was actually the conversation that they were having. They said like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years that they were going to take over the government and change the Constitution, which is like, I think the kind of like rhetoric that we do not need to hear coming from anybody, because that's kind of just like absurd to me. It's like
what if that's true though? What if it's not rhetoric?
How is that? How would it possibly be true? How would that possibly be a true thing?
A Muslim was just named voted in mayor of New York City 24 years after one of the largest religious-based attack and the most damaged terrorist attack in the history of this country and maybe of the world, only 24 years later. So, look, I'm not saying that it's going to happen imminently. I don't even think necessarily it's going to happen. But you do have a history of Islam from the radical side that says, yeah, the whole point is to convert everyone in the world. Everyone is supposed to be Muslim, because if you're not Muslim, you're not following the will of Allah. You're not following what the Quran says. You're not following all those different things that the Prophet Muhammad came up with. Now, you can say I don't agree with that, whatever. But what I'm going off of is there is a fundamentalist reading of the Quran and of these texts that is pretty accepted in the Muslim world. I don't have to agree with it. We don't really see the same level of fundamentalism in Christianity. You do have some, for sure, that are absolutely fundamental Christian. Anything that you have fundamentalist is a bad thing. Any fundamentalist is not good. But one of the things in Islam that you don't see is the rejection of kind of those more harsh, more fundamentalist. And I know we're going down a rabbit hole, and I don't mean to. But KJ makes the point that Christian nationalism, which is a form of fundamentalism, is just as much a threat. Now, you could argue that maybe those two cancel each other out. I actually really appreciate what Radical said. I like that you said anti-theist as opposed to you're an atheist, because atheism is there is no God. You're going, I just don't want people to be pushing their religion on me. Right? I was a missionary for 2 years in Taiwan. I'm a very active member of the LDS Church. And so when people online say to me like, oh, you're not Christian, I kind of go, Okay, I don't really care. But I see other people going, "How dare you say that about me?" And so, I mean, there's kind of this different things. And I think with MAGA, to kind of bring it back to MAGA, I do worry a little bit. I think KG's right. There are some roots that are definitely in the Christian nationalists. I just don't know how deep they are. I don't know how deep they'll go. Um, but you see things on both sides that are really really worrisome. You brought up Wick right up front, the anti-Semitism on the Democratic side, and so this I think the biggest problem with this whole thing is it really does come down to we're not, I don't remember who said it, we're not caring about each other and we're not caring about our neighbors. Now, I'm a rule of law guy. I think there's a better way to have people who are in this country illegally be removed and have better ways to get them back in. But at the same time, I think that if we were to take everything in the government really realistically down to the lowest level, and you ask people, do you get along with the people you work with? Do you get along with your neighbors? Most of us would say yes. Most of us say, hey, I care about them. If my neighbor's house was burning down, I'd go over and I'd do everything to put out the fire. But you have this idea of, well, what if they were a liberal? Oh, well, then I would never go put their house out. Or, oh, they're MAGA. Well, I would never. And this idea of the politics being so involved is just, to me, is kind of crazy. I have a friend who is all Trump derangement syndrome. And to me, I just say, look, what is happening in Washington and who the president is probably isn't going to affect you day to day. And if you let your entire life be surrounded by the news report that comes out of what Trump's doing, this or that, or whoever it is, Biden, whoever, you need to step away from the computer. You need to step away from the political. Go hug your kids. Go play with your dog. Take a deep breath, because realistically, even if the federal government collapsed tomorrow, that's probably not going to have a whole lot of impact on the vast majority of Americans.
How are you using Trump derangement syndrome? I'm just wondering, how are you using that? Are you using that in like a means to like say that they're Democrat, or are you saying like they're Republican?
Oh, this girl she's gone to the left to such a degree that anything Trump does and says is an absolute threat to the country. He is trying to break down everything, and by the end of this, I love.
Okay,
the
but
fact
just to be clear, remember what you said about like fundamentalist Islam and how?
Yes.
Oh, what if it's true? Well, that's the question. What if she's correct?
Sure, and
Okay.
it goes real quick.
Hold on, let him respond.
Real quick.
Okay.
So Wick, one of the things you said is that Trump, after the next election, is going to be done. I agree with that. But there are people who have bought into this idea that Trump's going to run for a third term. And they are so scared of that. And I look at it and go, you guys, that's part of he can say whatever he wants. I don't give a crap if Trump says, I'm going to run for a third term. I don't care, because he can't. Constitutionally, he's going to get struck down.
Yeah, but if he tries to.
He what?
If he tries
he made merch.
Oh, yeah, he made merch.
And he's, oh my gosh, Trump trying to make money off of an idea? Say it isn't so. I think we all.
And we've literally had bills introduced in Congress that would allow him to run for a third term, like multiple.
I mean, I can't imagine why people would think he wouldn't step down after losing an election. What event in the past could ever give us that idea that he wouldn't step down after losing an election? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I couldn't even. Yeah. So just to kind of
Biden was president though, huh?
So we had these kind of occurrences.
Yeah, but just hold on, right? just real quick.
Yeah.
He failed at it, but if someone comes with a gun and shoots at you and misses, you don't be like, well, you missed, so it's all good, brother. No. Anyway, go ahead.
So I just wanna kind of go back, because me being the weird guy that I am, I remember a couple of occurrences in this young country of ours history where we've had these transformative times where people have come together, right? The 1860s kind of come to mind initially, right? And we had this huge influx of immigrants pop in who were, new citizens who were getting representation in Congress. And then out of the blue, we start talking about, oh, there's an immigration problem, oh, the way of life. If we give them representation in Congress, if we allow them to vote, we're not, we're going to lose the American way of life, right? And then we had this huge 60-year window of oppression. And then we kind of said, hey, you know what? We should kind of wake up and get done with it. Then you had the civil rights era, right? Where everybody came together and was like, hey, man, you know what? My bad. Sorry about that. We're not going to do that again, right? And then you have the government come in and say, oh, well, shit. Now that they got equal protection, now that they're in the workforce, affirmative action, they can come take your jobs. They're on the way again. And then we kind of do this thing all over. So the spirit of MAGA has always been there. You can go back and you can say, well, shit, MAGA's been there. MAGA 1.0 was really post-Reconstruction when we had the whole, what they call it, the War of Northern Aggression, I believe is what they called it. I can't remember, something about states' rights or some shit, right? So
that's what the South called
it. Yeah. So that was MAGA 1.0, right? And then MAGA 2.0 came out in the 60s when they was like, oh my God, what happens if they drink out of the same water fountain as us? Then it's going to be the end of the fucking world. So now we're coming again. Same tired story. They're using the same playbook to scare people. Oh, it's the immigrants. They're coming in. They're taking our jobs. They're taking over everything. And eventually Charlie Brown is going to stop trying to kick the fucking football and just kick Lucy in the fucking head. Because he's going to realize that, no matter what I do, no matter how many times you put the football in front of us, you're going to keep yanking it from us. So I just wanted to put things into perspective. MAGA is not going to die. They're just going to keep reinventing themselves, and we're going to keep doing the same song and dance. It's as
in
American
this analogy,
as American
hold
pie.
on, KJ, in this analogy, I'm assuming Charlie Brown is MAGA, and Lucy is who?
No. Lucy in the football is MAGA. The American public is Charlie Brown, because in the 1860s we had this big ass conflict, and we was like, hey man, damn, slavery was bad. Don't worry about it. You're good though. Hey, let's fist bump. We're good. And then all of a sudden you say, all right, cool, man, we good. And then you pull the fucking football of us, and we got 70 years of damn Jim Crow. Then you say in the 1960s, you come back and you do the civil rights movement, and you say, God damn, man, hey, we fucked up that first time, but you know what? Here it is, fist bump me. We're good. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And then you come back and you move the damn football again, and you say, oh, well, affirmative action, and you're taking our fucking jobs. So after a while, you just replaced the American public. All right, it's not the blacks no more. We're going to use the browns now, right? But you're still pulling the same damn football issue. It's the same thing. It's as American as American pie. We did it in the American Revolution, where we said, hey, man, don't go with the Brits, because if we remember properly, I think I read it in the back of a Laffy Taffy wrapper, where the British had promised African Americans, hey, if you fight with us, you don't have to be slaves no more. But George Washington was getting his ass kicked up on the Potomac and in Canada, and was like, hey, you know what? It's a good idea if you guys fight with us, because you're here with us, right? But we'll take care of you on the back end. We'll make sure you squared away on the back end. And sure as shit, not even the ink had not dried on the damn Declaration of Independence, with all irony. All men are created equal except y'all ass. So it's as American pie. We can't, it would be asinine to believe that America would then say, hey, after 250 years, we finally learned our lesson. You're good after this one. This is the last fist bump, I promise.
Fair enough. Solemn Argus, 23-month membership. One more for 2 years. That's a lot. A little mission of your own. Thanks for the membership. That's great. $2 from Dylan Bowser for the panel discussion. Is a hot dog a taco? Not for $2. We're not going to have that discussion. Thank you for the $2. $5 from Wise Guy Plays. They do think in decades and centuries, the Palestinian people are still talking about going back to the 1948 borders. I think the Palestinian-Israel situation is a little different, but fair. $2 from Mr. Wise Guy Plays. $10 to join the conversation. No, I like the energy right now. We're good. $5 from Unwilling T Support. What would Chaplin say to those who say we have a problem with the LDS oath of vengeance, a la his view on Islam? Also, I don't know who's phone.
Yeah, can you
that's KJ again.
Yeah, it's my damn thing. I got it. I don't know why it keeps coming on.
Can you repeat that last one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Your phone, your thing still. Hold on, the beeping.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out which one it is to unplug it.
Just hit mute, KJ. You bum.
Do you mind muting?
Yeah,
I got you, man. Sorry about that. I got you. Yeah, I'll come off real quick.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
$5 from Unwilling Tea Support to say, what would Chaplin say to those who say, we have a problem with the LDS oath of vengeance, a la his view on Islam?
I have no idea what the oath of vengeance is.
I don't know, the blood.
Make him pay more money.
Blood
Make him pay
atonement,
more
I
money to
think.
explain what it is.
Sure, if I had to guess, it'd be blood atonement, but.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to bring up real quick. I don't know why you made a comment about what the first Islam mayor of New York. What was the comment about that you said? Like Mandami
after 24 years after a religious motivated attack on New York, that they elected a Muslim mayor.
That's
Something
crazy.
that
remember when they made Arnold Schwarzenegger the first Austrian mayor? I'm sorry, governor of New York.
No, he was governor of California.
Arnold was the governor of California.
Sorry, California. Sorry,
I think this misspoke.
Yeah, I just misspoke. The governor of California, and he was there for like 1,010 years. Like, since he was Austrian, was that a throwback to Hitler or whatever? Is that what was going on there? Or like,
were there a lot of Austrians attacking California?
They were attacking
a lot of Jews in California.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jews in California. A lot of Jewish people. A lot of gay people, especially. You know, like the Nazis didn't like the gay people. They didn't like them.
No, they didn't.
No. So I just think it's weird.
But okay.
No, it is. It's a weird. It is a weird comparison. The comparison wasn't the best. I'll give you that, because I'm thinking on the fly right now. But I think it's a weird comment to say like 9/11 had anything to do with it when he was like 10 years old, right? Wasn't he like 10 when it happened?
No, it's not about Mamdani directly. It's about the idea of the power and the willingness of people to move forward, and the infiltration, if you want to use that word, of people into these locations. Now, London has a Muslim mayor. I believe Toronto does too. But I think it's different when you're talking about a place like New York City that had direct links from a terrorist that was attacked directly. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. I do think it's very, very interesting, though, that you have him coming in. And I mean, to me, I think the bigger thing is the socialist stuff that he's pushing more than it's Islam. But I've seen quite a few people that are in New York that says, we've forgotten. So this isn't me just coming in and going, hey, you know, and I don't like the fact that he's Muslim. Honestly, I couldn't care less. I don't know if he's an active Muslim or an inactive Muslim, if he's Muslim by name or if he's a fundamentalist, if he goes to worship. When he starts saying we're going to have the loudspeakers play prayer 5 times a day over every New York City loudspeaker, then he'll lose the next election, because that stuff is annoying when you're trying to sleep. But they have every right to vote for him, whether he's. I don't think there should be a religious. What's the word? A religious.
Religious test, religious litmus test, religious requirement, something like that.
Litmus test, yeah.
Well, it seems like the people of I think it actually speaks very highly of the people of New York and their recognition. You know, that like, just because somebody has this religion doesn't mean that they would hold him responsible for an attack that again happened when he was like 8 years old, and that he obviously has like no. Yeah. Like, I've never heard Mamdani defend. I mean, I think he even condemn like Hassan Piker specifically for his comments about 9/11 and stuff. Like,
Thanks.
I mean, the New York people they know he's a Muslim, right? They're aware of this. They didn't forget about 9/11. They're just not holding it against him. And I think that's a remarkable thing for them.
But at the same time, the group that pushed him over were the young females, who most of them don't have. I mean, if you looked at the demographic breakdown,
women, right?
I believe it was women under 28 or whatever, just really like 70% for him. So you're talking about people that really weren't even alive.
Yeah. To be clear, though, he was running against Cuomo, who did some stuff.
And the fact that the Republicans can't put anybody forward in New York other than some dude I don't even know his name, in a beret that just looks completely insane. That tells you the weakness of or they were just like, there's no way we can win this. So why?
Wait. Is it too late to make the joke about women voting?
Go
See,
go
if
ahead.
the women,
was thinking
It's
that-
never too late.
see, that's what I'm saying. If you just restricted that damn women's vote, man, you wouldn't have this problem. You'd be
Gosh darn it.
It does feel
good
like
to
an undertone
go.
of that, to be
Gosh
honest.
darn it.
Well, that's
We need to
the,
get
well
that
that's
underway.
unironically that's what a lot of them will use and point
Exactly.
to and
Yeah.
say if women didn't vote, then Republicans would be elected every single time, right?
Yeah.
And then they would point to this metric saying if we just stop these people from voting, we can win the election every single time. And
Yeah,
the
but by
votes-
that argument, you could say, if we just cut off people that have college degrees, then Republicans will win every time too.
yeah, or if we restrict men from voting, we would get Democrats every single time. Blah blah blah.
If you
right?
stop black
If we
people
stop
from
Democrats
voting,
from voting,
if you
then
stop black
Republicans will win
people
every
from
election,
voting,
right?
Well,
I
they're,
mean,
they're
yeah,
trying
we-
to do
we-
that.
yeah.
you
but,
can look at
Yeah.
any group that leans more
Yeah.
towards one side or the other and say,
I understand. $5 from Sarcastic Warlock, my favorite warlock. Oh, what? How sweet.
Didn't Texas just lose? Didn't Texas just lose a ruling on that? About
Yeah, on
trying
the
to
redistricting thing, but that's a
Yeah.
little gerrymandering's a different topic. MAGA is just another Hydra head of Israel, and Lucy needs to be walled off and left to fend for herself. Thank you for the $5, I suppose. $5 from Unwilling Tea Support to explain, saying Oath of Vengeance was part of the endowment ritual of the LDS Church in 1845. Participants swore an oath to pray for God to avenge the blood of prophets. Thank you for the $5. Does that clarify to you, Chaplain?
I will say that it's not in the endowment anymore. It's never been, not that I've been in, so I have no idea what that is. So
Okay.
couldn't really have a comment on it. Just
Fair
in
enough.
terms of, I'm glad you got $5 more out of it.
Yeah, I'm glad I
but,
got $5 too. Maybe he'll
Yeah,
give us a history.
I just,
right? And
yeah, it's one of those things that the LDS Church has tried to be more open about some of our historical past, and I think it's good. I think sunlight's always positive in any situation, and letting people really know what's going on, and people want that. People want to know what's really going on. It's a huge jump in subject, but like the Epstein file, I think if America can come together for the Epstein file and tell the Republicans, what the frick are you doing, and Trump, and they turn around and go, we're getting too much pressure from home, then maybe there is hope for this country that we can come together and get stuff pushed. Now, I have a buddy who's very cynical, and he said, yeah, but wait, watch what happens, because then they're going to come back and redact things because it's an open investigation. And sure enough, he called it right 100%. So, yeah, I look at a lot of this stuff, and the MAGA stuff, I don't have a ton of faith in the MAGA movement as it is, because to me it's very much like the Tea Party or some of these other movements that have caught fire and gone off for a while. And I think it'll die down. I would hope that the people that think more like me, that they are more conservative, or even just traditional Republicans, go, you know what? Anybody that's going to be this kind of dummy who's going to be along the lines of what MAGA stands for, which let's be real clear what MAGA stands for. MAGA stands for making money for the President of the United States and those cronies that are around him. That's really what it comes down to. Because I said this back in the day, was Trump doesn't care about the American people. Trump cares about making money.
Yeah.
And it's always about money.
I understand that from the Trump angle, but to be fair to MAGA, there are many true believers who do not take that angle when it comes to what they believe MAGA stands for. So I agree with you in that, yes, that's what has manifested and what they actually have done. But for the people who bought into that, who voted for him, who support him and support the MAGA movement, they have a very different idea of what MAGA means. And they have very different things that they want for MAGA to do.
I'd be curious to have a conversation with somebody who I honestly, I'm not sure I know anybody who's truly MAGA. I know maybe Allie, KJ. You think Allie would be MAGA?
No, Allie's just a conservative who votes her interest. Was I beeping again? God.
So I'm not sure I've met anybody that is all in,
Would you like to meet someone who's MAGA? I can introduce you to a few.
To me, what I mean is, if we're going to have this discussion, we're going to talk about what MAGA means to somebody who's a true believer. that's not me. So how do I sit there and say this is what they truly believe and this is what they're going to buy into?
Same reason you were able to explain Islamist beliefs. Same thing. You're not Islamic.
I mean, you're kind of buying into the MAGA beliefs, though. You're kind of parroting a lot of the beliefs that they say that they repeat ad nauseum.
Just real quick, Alish. Would you consider him MAGA?
No, I wouldn't consider him MAGA.
Why not? That might be interesting. Why isn't he MAGA?
He's not MAGA because he will not unabashedly protect Trump. So, but he is repeating a lot of the things that his base says, like the thing about the Islam, about the Muslims. He repeated the thing about TDS, which I think is a truly embarrassing thing for people to say in 2025, in my opinion. I don't understand why that even became a thing, because it doesn't have any logical basis to it, in my opinion.
That started with Bush, though. See, that was back in the day. You guys maybe aren't old enough. Hannity coined that back with Bush derangement syndrome. This is an old school one, so this is not a brand new thing. It's the derangement syndrome.
Never heard that.
But the way you used it, I think earlier is a really interesting thing you said about how people aren't directly affected by. I think more than ever, we do see a lot of direct effects, especially from this administration, right? Like we have entire communities that are kind of have to watch behind their backs because they have ICE agents running around, grabbing people off the street and throwing tear gas at children's birthday parties. And not to mention, we had the overturning of Roe v. Wade directly because of a Trump presidency, and he takes all the credit for it, and we should give it to him. And this is something that directly affects real women's lives. We see the maternal mortality rate going up by like 33% or something in Texas, while dropping nationally. These are people's real lives at stake, and people are seeing the results in their day-to-day stuff. I understand that, I encourage people, touch grass, go outside. But I think when you talk to people, whether it's, tariffs raising prices, and everyone goes to the grocery store, we all see those prices up. No one believes Trump when he said that, the Thanksgiving dinner thing, proved that, prices are way down. They're not. And everybody knows this. And we're seeing it on a day-to-day basis. And people are rightly attributing it to the president of the United States. And it's not because we have some derangement syndrome. It's because we're paying attention.
Oh, but you're making valid points about things. What I'm saying, the idea of a Trump derangement syndrome is everything that goes wrong is because of Trump. And that's kind of the idea behind it is this is wrong, Trump. This is bad, Trump. This, Trump. And so that's more of it's a blame when it's like, how can that possibly have anything to do with Trump? My tire blew out. Oh, it's Trump's fault. That's
what
the
people
type
said about
of thing
Biden.
He's actually saying that.
And I'm not saying there wasn't a Biden derangement syndrome. I'm saying there's an unhealthiness,
Thanks,
unhealthy
Obama was the
equivalent
meme I
of.
already heard.
Yeah.
Thanks,
There's
Obama.
an unhealthy idea that the people, the thanks Obama joke, right? Or the let's go Brandon. I mean, there's just a point where it's like, you guys really everything that happens bad in your life is not because of the president. Maybe you made bad decisions. Maybe you've done things that aren't great for your life. It's not based on what somebody in Washington is doing. That said, Washington does a lot of horrible things and a lot of things that are not good for this country. But when we're talking about MAGA, and we're talking about, one thing I did want to say about Alish was, you said, I'm repeating a lot of the talking points that MAGA come with. I want to be real clear. Conservatives have had these ideas for years and years. I've been a conservative my entire life. I was 16 going, why do we tax this way? Tax is theft. We shouldn't be having this. This is stupid. And gay marriage and abortion, all that, the conservative talking points, to me, they're not talking points. They're things I believe. And the fact that MAGA overlaps some of them, but at the same time, the federal government going in and investing in some of these companies, to me, I go, well, wait a minute, is this a free market or not? When the government comes in and puts in tens and hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to pick winners and losers, I'm just as opposed when Republicans do it in Iowa with corn as when Obama did it with solar panels in California. The government should not be giving money to corporations. So there are certain things that kind of overlap and are on both sides. KJ said they're the same side of the coin. The oligarchs thing, oh, well, the Republicans have these oligarchs who are coming in. Well, Soros has been dumping, hundreds of millions of dollars into the other side. So we have both sides, and it's rotten on either side. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are rotten. And when Elon Musk finally said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm done. Oh, there's the kitty. I'm done. And he moved out and he said, I'm going to, you didn't say it? So, when Elon Musk left and said, I'm going to start my own party, my wife heard about it like 2 months later. She went, did Elon Musk really start a new party? And I went, well, I mean, he's talking about it. But when I hear Elon Musk pumps $50 billion into that new party, then I'll start looking at it and taking him seriously. Because that's what it's going to take to have a middle ground new party that in any way breaks what we have as the two-party system. It's not going to happen until somebody like Musk or someone else. And then the problem is, well, now Musk controls that party and we don't trust Musk. If it was a blind trust and Musk said, hey, I'm going to put $20 billion into a blind trust for this party, the American party, and I don't have anything to do with it, it's a completely blind trust, I'd immediately start looking into it. But until that happens, So to me, that's where why? Because I don't trust either of the sides. I don't trust the Democrats or the Republicans, like KJ has said. I don't trust them to do what's best for this country and for the general population of this country.
I'm bringing back the Bull's party.
I don't know if I can try to push back on us getting sucked in, again down into this both sides debate. Like, I mean, the topic here is not like, are the Democrats equally as bad as the Republicans? It's like we're talking about like post-Trump MAGA and like what the future of the Republican Party looks like. And I mean, I think we're spending very little time actually like talking about like these rising Christian nationalist movements, the rise in again, I mean, I've heard weird stories about like kids going to school wearing "Your Body, My Choice" sweaters and stuff, and like I mean, this is like I think there's something very rotten specifically at the core of the Republican Party right now that we need to be trying to diagnose and trying to figure out. I mean, like, even from the left, like, I mean, I guess I'm always pointing to it, but like, it just feels like it feels like we're dancing around that. And additionally, I feel like you kind of did this with the whole TDS thing. Like you did kind of like a Mott and Bailey where you're saying, oh, well, I'm talking about the people who blame, Trump for their tires blowing out and stuff. Well, I mean, I hear people say this when I bring up every point that I listed out to you that you said was a valid point. I think that's more commonly how it's used, is people just complaining about things that Trump is actually doing. I think that's usually when people pull out TDS. It's not because someone goes like thanks Trump in a thanks Obama kind of echo. I just don't think this is the same thing that's happening.
So yeah, I would say that the Conservative Party died officially when Paul Ryan left. I think he was like the last bastion of the traditional conservative Republican Party.
Ryan of all people, okay.
Fair. Yeah, and I will tell you, for as cantankerous as he was principled in his conservative values. Misguided. I can always respect a person, you know what I'm saying, if they're principled, right or wrong. But if you stand on business and that's what you believe in, I can respect them. And when he realized that it wasn't about the business of conservatism anymore, and he kind of saw the writing on the wall, he stepped aside. So I don't believe the Republican Party exists anymore. What you have is these fragments of extremism that have been making inroads. And then you have the conservative, I guess there's 2 or 3 maybe true conservatives left. Massey comes to mind. But I think this is his last ride too. So what you're going to have is a bunch of kids who like the glitz and glamour and the instant notoriety of the MAGA movement, with none of the conservative principles under the Republican banner taking over. So you'll have a shadow of the Republican Party, but it's going to be based off of this new extremist ideology.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I want to. This is to everyone. Right now, modern conservatism, what are its principles? What is some of the top 3 principles, let's say, of modern conservatism as it manifests in the United States?
Well, that's a great
That's
question.
to everyone, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm,
yeah. I mean, that's a great question because it's
Immigration, anti-trans.
yeah, it's no longer it's no longer small government, right? Because they have more corporate interests than than the Democratic Party. It's no longer, for a while they kind of flirted with the "Don't tread on me" mantra, right? But I mean, recent Republican policy has been treading on people at an astounding rate. So nobody knows. And that's a weird way just to say nobody knows. The Republican Party is in an identity crisis. For as much as they bash trans people about knowing their true identity, the Republican Party has no freaking idea who they are or which way they're going right now. And that is scary.
I'm curious Chaplin's answer to this question. Modern conservatism, the top 3 principles as it manifests in America.
Top 3 principles. First one would be lower taxes and getting out of people's pockets and leaving them alone. That's the first one. Now, I will say this, there is a paradox when it comes to that and I've thought this for a long time, the paradox of the abortion issue. Because as conservatives, it's always been, hey, people should be able to live their lives how they want, except when it comes to abortion, which I understand because it is the idea of protecting an innocent life. So, but it's still kind of a paradox of, hey, the government's not supposed to be involved in people's lives except for that one. And it's a bit of a paradox on that one. But really, the idea of a conservative, we still do want the government out of our lives. We don't want this big government. It drives me bonkers every time that the Democrats are in charge and they raise taxes and this and that. And I hear the Republicans going, oh, I can't believe they're spending taxes and doing the big Inflation Deficit Act and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then they get in and they go, well, now it's our turn, so we're going to spend it too. It's like, you guys drive me just insane because it's when we're out of power, we complain about the exact same things we do when we get in power. And there's no consistency. There's no true foundational stuff. I wish right now I could turn around and have some like really brilliant Thomas Sowell conversation of this is what the actual conservative mindset is. But if I were going to say who would I look to say who is a true conservative, the first thing I'd probably go, okay, what did Thomas Sowell say? And it is a small government. It's government staying out of your business. It's treating people with love and respect and kindness and being able to defend yourself, looking at the Constitution as its core belief. But the biggest problem with the Constitution is your core belief is everybody interprets it so differently that what does it really mean? You can't even get people to agree that the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, that it means you have the right to carry a weapon or not. And then does that mean you can carry and conceal? And then you have, well, this group, I don't like that group carrying and concealing. Oh, this group can, open carry, non-carry. So even it's very much, I think, disjointed. And the conservatives, there's not a conservative voice. I wish Thomas Sowell right now was 50 years old and coming up, because maybe he'd be in a position where the national GOP would start looking at him going, maybe he's the guy.
I can give you one reason they wouldn't.
I can give you, yeah. I think we're on the same page on that one. Yeah,
I don't agree because right now I think
look what they did to Ramaswamy. I mean, look what they did to Ramaswamy. Like that is he had all the correct answers.
He was disloyal to Trump.
That's not why.
Which is stupid. I loved Ramaswamy, by the way. I thought he was great.
A lot of conservatives initially did because they shared his values, and then they looked at the guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until why? Because of why?
Because he had aspirations for power, and they're cool with you as long as you stay in your place. But the minute Ramaswamy,
anybody who is running for president of the United States is an absolute narcissistic, just a-hole who wants to be in power. There is not a single person who runs for... go back, Mitt Romney. As much as I love Mitt Romney as a guy, he still wanted to be in charge. You have to have a level of psychosis to say, I'm the most important person in the entire world. If
So-
we truly wanted to fix, KJ, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
We give it to somebody who doesn't want it.
Yeah, I will tell you, 47 iterations of POTUS, 47 of them. Only one POTUS has ever had their birth certificate questioned and their citizenship questioned. Only one.
Trump started the birther movement.
You know what I'm saying? Let's not kid
John
ourselves.
McCain got asked about it. John McCain was very much questioned because he was born on a U.S. Army base when his father was deployed to Panama. So there was a whole question about him too.
It happened to me.
To be questioned about it is one thing, but to spawn an entire birther movement is completely different. Let's not kid ourselves. We are what we are, and as long as we continue to pussyfoot around who we are, we're going to have that issue.
Which is funny because the easier attack was to say that his mentor and de facto grandfather was a card-carrying communist, which is just would have been such an easier because he was. I mean, that would have been the easier thing to go after.
But the POTUS, the current POTUS is that's what I'm saying.
POTUS, yeah, he was a big pusher of that. Yeah.
But let's not mistake ourselves. The current POTUS's grandfather was a card carrying Nazi to the day he died. What is the standard?
You mean General Trump?
But I'm saying though, we can't, you know what I'm saying? We have this weird morality complex in America, right? Well, we'll say, we're post-racial, we're not about that bullshit. Racism is as American as American pie, right? And as long as we keep bullshitting around with it,
worldwide, my man, worldwide.
There's a very particular kind of racism that exists in the United States.
I don't disagree that it's not worldwide, but you know what happens worldwide? But hold on. Let me finish this point. Hold on.
Finish, but I got to push back on that one.
Here's what happens. Everywhere else in the world will say, "Hey, man, we were racist." You got Germans and Nazi. You know why they don't teach? You know why they don't teach about the Nazi movement in Germany? Because they realized it was fucking racist, right? Sure. You know what we do in America? We say, "Hey, man, that's not true." Slavery was there, but I mean, shit, they were happy. They were singing and dancing and shit, and we let them go to church on Sunday, so it's all good. Yeah, so let's not.
The entire Civil War was rewritten during Reconstruction.
But what I'm saying is, go ahead, Radical. Go ahead.
I was gonna say also Trump spent was it the second or third month of this term where he's focusing on the Smithsonian because they're it's depressing or something and it makes America look bad. Well, yeah, America made itself look bad by doing these things, right? I wanted to push back on a few of the to talk about a few of the values you brought up about conservative. I think they were all very interesting. The obsession about abortion specifically is one that I find fascinating, considering I believe 40% of Republicans actually do support abortion access. Yet this has still become a weird wedge issue for the right, despite such a large portion of their own party supporting that. We talk about tariffs. Well, right now we have Donald Trump imposing tariffs everywhere, which are taxes, right? And these are taxes that disproportionately affect the middle and lower class. People will defend this by saying, well, the U.S. used to be funded primarily by tariffs. This is true, and you know who had the burden of these taxes? It was the middle and lower class who were consumers, people who were paying sales tax, they were funding the government, and that's what Trump is trying to do again. So that's why we're seeing prices skyrocket. And
I didn't bring up tariffs. I'm a free trade guy.
I know, but you brought up taxes. You brought up taxes, and tariffs are taxes. And they're literally taxes. The last one, and then I'll yield it back because I know I'm throwing a lot out here. But we're talking about treating people with love and respect and kindness while we're black bagging immigrants and at best sending them to CCOT, maybe sending them to Alligator Alcatraz and celebrating it and thinking how funny it is. I just don't see any of these values existing in the Republican Party right now.
Well, like I said, as a conservative, there's the disconnect between what is going on federally and what's going on to the average conservative. I do think there's a difference because I can sit and I can say, if somebody is in this country illegally, they should be removed. They should go home and they should file the proper paperwork and they should try to come back in a legal way. And I have no problem with that. If you're here illegally, and
you can't do that from CCOT.
Well, you'd have to be returned back to your place of origin, and that was the whole thing with Trump coming in and saying, what did he say, self-deport? And there were a lot of people who left. But, there's this idea of there is a rule of law, and conservatives sometimes believe in rule of law.
Glad you were careful with
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm rolling my eyes to some degree. But, I think, borders do matter. And that's something that most conservatives would say borders do matter. But as far as the abortion goes, I do think that abortion is something that you have to, in this case, it's a little bit different simply because there's the religious versus conservative. Conservative is a political idea. Religious is a religious idea, and it's your idea of life. I have friends that are very, very anti-abortion in every sense of the word. Because now I say, look, I'm anti-abortion, but I think there are caveats, and my church has even said that as well: rape, incest, and health of the mother. And I have friends that are Christian and chaplains that have said, nope, doesn't matter, because that baby is still innocent, and it doesn't matter if she was raped. The baby is innocent, and that baby is a separate life, and the baby has unique DNA. Therefore, the baby has every right to survive. And I understand the argument. I don't necessarily get away with it because I look at it. I tell people this, and they kind of laugh until they hear why I say it, because they know I'm pro-life, right? But I say I'm actually very much pro-choice. And they say, well, you're not pro-choice. I say, well, yeah, I am. I've got 3 daughters. I hope they choose not to go on one-on-one dates. I hope they choose not to go park. I hope they choose not to get in the back seat. I hope they choose not to engage in heavy petting. I hope they choose not to engage in sex. And I hope they choose, if all those fail, to use birth control. And if they make all those pro-choices, we don't have to worry about having an abortion. But I don't agree making all those bad choices. Then if you decide that you don't want the baby after you've made all those choices, now on a given, there's always going to be the anecdotal situations that come up, and I get it. But in general, I think that's the concept that most conservatives kind of look at, is if somebody is making those choices. And I've heard women just rightfully say, well, then why is it only the women's responsibility? The men should have to take care of them. Absolutely. The guy should not be able to go in, get somebody pregnant, and basically say, I have no responsibility anymore. They should absolutely be just as accountable as a woman. Now, we can talk about how that accountability comes in, but I think men should absolutely be accountable for that too.
Okay, let me.
I don't want to accidentally. I'm not trying to turn this into an abortion debate.
Before you do, let me read a couple super
Go
chats
ahead.
and get through them. $5 from Mr. Wise Guys to say TDS is a real thing. The people that say it's not are usually people that sympathize with people that are Trump deranged or they have Trump derangement syndrome. And $5 more to say it wasn't the Republican Party back then, more Christian nationalists. I'm young, but I know that a lot of traditional liberals that switched to MAGA. Thank you for the $5. Okay, back to you, Radical Coder. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I gotta
guess
make my money.
What I'm kind of pointing to when I talk about all these like inconsistencies and stuff in the Republican values or alleged Republican values is that despite all of these things, like the Republican Party is, at least until very, very recently, has still largely like put themselves behind Trump, right? And so I think what I'm imagining is that whatever figurehead they decide to unite around next, it doesn't necessarily matter what their values are. Is what the message I'm getting from them is that as long as these people like at least say the right things for a while, and then or until they get them to follow them, and then they can continue saying things that completely contradict these ideas. I don't know. I think that's what's interesting. So if we see the normalization of this Christian nationalism, we see the normalization of people like Nick Fuentes and stuff, then I'm scared that the Republicans are going to unite around someone even more extreme than Trump.
So,
and I don't want to see that.
Yeah, to kind of jump in here a little bit, the modern conservative principle that I see at play that is most consistently followed: own the libs. That is what they want to do. They don't care if they don't own anything else. They can own nothing else. As long as they own the libs, it's all good. And I see this play out to different extremes on the different sides. They don't care if they win. They just want the other side to lose. Yeah. And they don't care if they suffer. They just want the other side to suffer more. And they will absolutely put up with policies and things that hurt them as long as they can hurt the other people that they hate too. And I do worry that we are seeing more and more of this type of thinking. And I do worry that that is the future of the MAGA party. They're like, okay, well, we didn't win this way. We have to go more extreme because they can't win. They're going to, I've seen this from hundreds of people saying they're going to kill us if we don't win. If we don't win, they're going to hunt us down in the streets like they did Charlie Kirk. They're going to come into our homes and destroy us. They're going to kill us in the trains like they did that Ukrainian lady, right? They honestly, many of them honestly believe that that is the case. And if you honestly believe that the other side is going to kill you, what does that justify you doing in response? And that's what I'm worried about, right?
And that's where, you would see those people that believe that, they look at it as preemptive self-defense, which is silly. And I agree with you. And that's where I'm saying, as a conservative, what I would like to consider a true conservative, I have just as big a problem, Radical, with those people who don't follow what they're preaching. Somebody who's Christian and is going to turn around and say, well, I don't like that person because he's black. I don't want anything to do with you, you piece of crap. I want people around me who, even if I don't agree with them, I can have that debate. KJ and I have known each other for 10 years, and we have argued on just about everything. But we can both agree the Philadelphia Eagles suck. And so we just try to find things that we have in common.
My girlfriend loves the Eagles. You watch your mouth.
So, but we can get together. We have gone to baseball games, and I'm there cheering for the Dodgers, and he's there cheering for the Braves. It's like, great, we have fun going to games and all that. And we, it's kind of funny. We were leaving the Dodgers-Brave game a year and a half ago, and as we're coming up, we went around, and there was this convention center, and there were these people coming out. They were pretty well dressed. And we're like, hey, what was going on there? And they went, J.D. Vance was speaking in there. And we just kind of looked at each other like, oh, what could we have gone in and gotten a question? What would we have asked? And it was fun for us just kind of talking about that. But I think
what's your favorite couch, Mr. President, Vice President?
Unfortunately, we're kind of at the point in a lot of ways where even it's discouraging, but here's the other side. It's discouraging that we don't have these conversations as much as we could, but it is encouraging that right now there's 5 of us online. I don't know how many people are watching, but they're about
120 on Twitch and
120.
YouTube,
But that's 120 people that otherwise wouldn't have heard my opinion or anybody else's opinions on here. Some of them are going to go, oh, Chaplin, right on. He knows what. And others are going to go, Chaplin's a piece of crap. What's he?
I could tell you the mix if you want.
My guess, I don't know. So I don't know what your audience mix is. But here's the thing, and this is kind of what I think it potentially comes down to. I probably didn't convince anybody on the left that I'm correct, and I'm guessing that none of you guys that are on the left convinced anybody that's on the right that you're right, because we like to hear things we agree with. That's always been the case. And that's one of the problems to me with the MAGA movement, is that MAGA movement doesn't want to hear that Trump isn't the greatest ever, that Trump and the MAGA movement has problems. I don't know Nick Fuentes I know enough about Nick Fuentes that I don't want to know anything about Nick Fuentes. He sounds like a complete piece of trash to me.
I talked to him once, actually. He was on Stardust show, and I was on. He threatened to pipe bomb my house.
Nice.
That's the famous
wonderful
thing.
Person. It sounds
great, great guy. Anyway, continue.
I had a debate with him back in the day.
Yeah. So people like that. I mean, I read little snippets of like Candace Owens and go, really? Like, are we just all in on anti-Semitic? Oh, the Jews control everything. And if it's not the Jews, it's the blacks. And if it's not the Jews, it's the gays. And if it's not the gays, it's the trans. If it's not the trans, it's the Mormons, right? And to me, when you start saying it's everybody else's fault what is going on with your life, then you've got a problem. And that's kind of where I say, going back to originally the president. So with MAGA, what is MAGA going to do? Because we're coming up on a couple hours here. I don't know, but I think and I hope that a little bit of common sense wins out, and I hope that the Democrats, if the Republicans continue and double down with MAGA and say, we are going to put somebody in that is going to carry the torch for MAGA and for all the negative things that it stands for. I hope the Democrats at least put somebody viable forward that is not so far left that that it just makes it impossible, right? I don't think the Republicans are going to put somebody that's more moderate. I hope they do. I just don't trust they will. But if it was between Shapiro and Abbott, I'd kind of go, well, at least whoever wins, we're going back to where
What about
we need to be
AOC
back
versus Fuentes? Who would you vote for? Nick Fuentes or AOC?
I didn't hear the
Good
first
question.
name.
Nick Fuentes
AOC.
or AOC? Who you voting for?
Oh gosh, whoever the libertarian is, I don't even know who it is at that
Okay.
point. I will flat out vote libertarian. I will waste my vote and try to get the libertarian
AOC has
party.
moderated so much since you got in office.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, we are coming up on the 2 hours, and I do want to respect everyone's time here. So I'm going to give each of these lovely individuals outros, closing statements, closing thoughts, where you can find them, etc. I have links to their stuff in my YouTube description. Please go and click on their links. They spent their time with us today to give us content. The least you could do is give them a follow. Go check them out. I do really appreciate you all for coming on. Just briefly, if you've enjoyed the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We have great shows like this all the time. Tomorrow, gang, we're going to have the conversation from a bit of a different angle, and we're going to ask, what should Democrats do when they get into power when it comes to MAGA? Should they have Nuremberg-style trials for the leadership? Destiny seems to think so. Staxium seems to think so. Fun fact, Staxium was the last guy who was talking to Charlie Kirk when he got shot. So he's going to be on the show.
Really?
They're going to be, yes.
That was the guy on the microphone?
Yes, he was the guy on the microphone.
Wow.
We're going to be talking to, also, Counter Connor's going to be on there. Counterpoints, and then we're going to talk to Prime Kais. He's going to be here too. They disagree with that. So it'll be a good show, 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. It'll be fun. That said, $5 for the Sarcastic Warlock to say, in crowds, it is stupidity and not mother wit that is accumulated, from Gustave Le Bon. Hoping for common sense is foolishness. Never back a mob. Thank you for the $5. I want to start with Radical Coder, and I want to give the last word to Mr. Chaplin. Go ahead, Radical Coder, close us out.
I mean, it was an interesting conversation. I'll be honest, I'm a little frustrated. I feel like we moved away consistently from talking about the reality of what the Republican Party's like doing and facing. You know, when forgive me, I can't see your name on the bottom left here. The guy who I've talked to a lot here.
Chaplin.
Chaplin. Yeah. Chaplin. Right. Okay. Sorry. Ryan, by the way, I'm Ryan. The one of the last things you said, I appreciate. I hear it a lot from Republicans, and I trust me, it is good in contrast to the opposite. But like when you talk about like, oh, I don't want these people who hate others for things like skin color and all this stuff. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I feel like it's at this point extremely kind of low-hanging fruit. And the reality is that the Republicans are facing and normalizing people who they don't just outright like. They don't necessarily just go out and say, I don't like black people. Sometimes they do, but they spend a lot of time hyper normalizing these ideas in kind of contagious and nefarious ways, and then they go out and just say it. And I'm afraid that this is the future of the Republican Party, and just disavowing racism and stuff, I don't think is going to be enough to hold them off. And I think we. What I would ask Republicans to do, like the moderate Republicans who think that stuff is disgusting, I'm with you. I would like to. I want to see you guys out there not just saying, "Hey, racism is bad," but like, "Hey, we can't let these people become our party. We can't let this become the future of the Republicans. We need to moderate." We talked a lot about the Democrats, potentially putting up someone who's too far left for you to support. I mean, you said maybe AOC is this person. I don't see this kind of radicalism, and I consider myself like pretty far left, and I just don't see people who are this radical leftist people. I don't see them in power. I mean, again, maybe Mamdani, Bernie, AOC. This is the most far left we've got, and most of the policies that they support are extremely common, like moderate policies across the pond. Like I don't know. I am genuinely concerned about where the MAGA base is going to point their sycophantic support, because there are a lot of people who have formed around MAGA who are just focused on gaining that sycophantic support to do whatever their individual goals are. And I think a lot of those goals are really horrifying. And I don't know. I'm afraid of what we'll see, but I am hopeful that these schisms will make it harder for them to win in the future. So thank you, Wick, for having me. Everyone, I'm youtube.com/radicalcoder. I have the cute little wiener dog, and also, again, clever, handsome, funny, all those things. Appreciate
Thank you for showing us your wiener dog on the podcast. I do appreciate that. Alish, go ahead.
Anytime, Wick.
Mm-hmm.
This is horrible for me to say, but Laura Loomer said it best. The GOP has a Nazi problem. I think she highlighted that. In my own words, though, I think that the right and the Conservative Party in general needs to stop thinking in the me type of way, and they need to start thinking in the United States, in other words, the U.S. us way, because it needs to be about us, not about them. Just a thought. So we really need to take that empathy and spread it out and kind of understand that the policies are not just for you, they're for everybody in the United States. And I think everybody needs to start thinking about that. My name is Owlishness. I am only on X. I don't use my YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. KJ, please.
Indeed. Hey, man, thank you so very much for having us. I really enjoy these types of conversations, man. It's always a fun time. Just a couple of hashtags before I get up out of here. Once again, we're Two Pogues Save the World. Hashtag Life, Liberty, and Pursuits. Hashtag Fire the 535. And hashtag Get Up, Stand Up. That's all I got.
Okay, well, check them out, gang. I got a link to their stuff in my description. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, final word. Mr. Chaplin, go ahead.
Well, first, I want to say thanks to Sarah the Raging Tomato, who reached out to me and said, hey, I have an opportunity to come in with Wick. And I believe I've seen, Ryan, you on some of her debates as well. So I have seen some things, which is good. I will say this. It's interesting to come on and be on with people who clearly don't agree with me, and that's okay. That's why I think that there's actually hope, is that we can come on and have these very, very different viewpoints. You know, Ryan says he doesn't see the radical side of that. My argument would be that's because you're part of that radical viewpoint to me. But I also recognize that Alish and Ryan, you guys both see me as probably way too far conservative, and I'm a radical. But it's great that we can sit and have this conversation, and it never devolved into name calling. It never devolved into you're a piece of crap, you're wrong. We can debate these things and have those different points of view, and we need more of that. And we need to look at people for who they are. We all bleed red. There's no such thing as skin color that defines a person. There's no such thing as somebody going in and being right for being violent with another person physically. So we can go out, vote your conscience, vote the way you want, but you know what? Give a little bit of care, a little bit of empathy towards other people. Just because you don't believe in what they believe in doesn't mean you have to attack them for that. And if we have that care, and if you're Christian, frickin' be Christian. All right? I'm Christian, and I try to love other people. So stop being idiots.
Stop being idiots.
Hey,
so,
Wick, thank you for hosting this. This has been great. It's been fun.
I'm glad you liked it. So just to be clear, it's literally, I put a poll up, and 50-50 on you, Chaplin. 50 think you're a weirdo. 50 think you're a good guy. It's literally like
it's appropriate.
It's pretty consistent 50-50. Anyway, thank you all for coming. We're going to end the show. I love you all. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Wait, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.